fill out the graphic organizer together. Okay? So everyone pay attention. I'm going to start. I'm going to read from the beginning. We're going to share. I got you. No. I got you. In the dim past, even before the Qing and Han dynasties, there lived a cave chief of southern China by the name of Wu. As was the custom in those days, Chief Wu had taken 2 wives. Each wife, in their turn, had presented Wu with a baby daughter. But one of the wives sickened and died. And not too many days after that, Chief Wu took to his bed and died too. Yin Xin, the little orphan, grew to girlhood and is her stepmother's home. She was a bright child and lovely too, with skin as smooth as ivory and dark pools for her eyes. Okay, so we're going to stop there our first one. What big things do we think we just went through that we just talked about? There's some main character in the story we just talked about. Yes. Yin Xin. Yes. So in a good character, putting at the top name, put down Yin Xin. Cool. Yeah, yeah.
What does she feel like again?
And then that's where it goes. And then looks like she just said smooth skin and she has dark eyes.
Wait, how do you go in?
Yin Xin, Y, I got you. Y-E-H-S-H-E-N.
Do you have another front page?
Yes.
Wait, can I get another one?
You guys good?
Can I get one?
Huh?
I need it again.
We just open a window and sit back.
No, that's good. I just get hot. I'm gonna open it though. But would you say?
I need another front paper.
Oh, I got you. Well, that's nice. We should have thought that at the beginning. Okay. So where were we? So we got this part. So we have smooth skin, dark eyes, Yin Xin, character traits. We haven't got to that part yet. We're gonna keep reading. We're gonna get some character traits. So in that box, remember we talked about she has smooth skin and she has dark eyes. You're good. I was going through it. That's what I'm saying. That's no problem.
Don't explain about
It
her
doesn't
hair.
say that. The only thing, skin is smooth as ivory and dark pools for eyes.
Wait, where is smooth
Skin as smooth as ivory and dark pools for eyes. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. Good. We're all doing what we're doing great. So we're going to get more in the story. We're going to keep going. So her stepmother was jealous of all this beauty and goodness. Her own daughter was not pretty at all. So in her displeasure, she gave poor Yin Xin the heaviest and most unpleasant chores. The only friend that Yin Xin had to hear her name was a fish. She had caught and she raised. It was a beautiful fish with golden eyes, and every day it would come out of the water and rest its head on the bank of the pond, waiting for Yin Xin to feed it. Stepmother gave Yin Xin little enough food for herself, but the orphan child always found something to share with the fish, which grew to an enormous size. So we're going to go into this. We're going to go to the next one, the next line down, evil character. What do you guys think evil character is? Yes, the stepmother. And it says feels like. What do you think she feels like? She already said it. There's a word that describes how she feels towards Yin Xin. Yes, jealous. Great job. Great job, guys. And character traits. What do you think her character traits are for the stepmother? What would you think? Yes, it talked about her a little bit, but from what we got from like what her stepmother was, what could you? So she uses this. This is the quote I would say. So in her displeasure, she gave poor Yin Shin the heaviest and most unpleasant chores. So what do you think she's going at her with? Like what type? Angry, like you want to be the type of way. So yes, mad, angry. That's what I would use for that character trait for her. Great job, guys. We're getting there. Just put angry right there. Okay, you're doing great. Great. We're gonna keep going until we're gonna keep moving. We're getting there. I'm saying, you're getting there. Somehow, the stepmother heard of this. She was terribly angry to discover that Yin Shin had kept a secret from her. She hurried down to the pond, but she was unable to see the fish, for Yin Shin's pet wisely hid herself from the stepmother. The stepmother, however, was a crafty woman, and she soon thought of a plan. She walked home and called out Yin Shin, "Go and collect some firewood, but wait, the neighbors might see you. Leave your filthy coat here." The minute the girl was out of sight, her stepmother sipped on the coat herself and went down again to the pond. This time, the big fish saw Yin Shin's familiar jacket and heavened itself onto the bank, expecting to be fed, but the stepmother, having a hidden dagger in her sleeve, stabbed the fish, wrapped it in her garments, and took it home for her to cook dinner.
Oh my.
I don't know about you guys, that's pretty messed up about someone to cook something that she loved and then to go cook it and make it a meal and make Yin Shin eat that fish. So we're gonna keep going. That's pretty wild. Bless you. When Yin Shin came to the pond that evening, she found her pet had disappeared. Overcome with grief, the girl collapsed on the ground and dropped her tears in the still waters with grief. The girl collapsed on the ground and dropped her tears into the still waters of pond. "Ah, poor child," a voice said. Yin Shin sat up to find a very old man looking down at her wore his coat of the clothes, and his hair flowed down over his shoulders. "Kind uncle, who may be you?" Yin Shin asked. "That is not important, my child. All you must know is that I have been sent to you to have the wondrous powers of your fish. My fish, but sir," the girl's eyes filled with tears and she could not go on. The old man sighed and said, "Yes, my child, your fish is no longer alive. And I must tell you that your stepmother is once more the cause of your sorrow." Yin Shin gasped in horror. But the old man said, "Let us not dwell on things that are past," he said, "for I have come bringing you a gift. Now you must listen carefully to this. The bones of your fish are filled with a powerful spirit. Whenever you are in serious need, you must kneel before them and let them know your heart's desire. But do not waste their gifts." Yin Shin wanted to ask Sage many more questions, but as soon as he came, he left, rose to the sky before she could utter another word. With a heavy heart, Yin Shin made her way to the dome heap to gather the remains of her old friend. Time went by. Yin Shin, who was often left alone, took comfort in speaking to the bones of her fish when she was hungry, which happened quite often. Okay, so that's pretty wild, guys. We're getting to the end of the story. We're figuring out, okay, what are we just doing? It's like the guy's name. It's a mystery name. I don't know why there's a 3, I guess. I don't know. But so we figured out that fish now that was killed has magi or loved ones die. And then let you guys know when you guys are done.
You put it at first.
Done.
Yes, first. For the main events. Okay, so next, rising action. Stepmom. So what do you guys think the rising action this is? So what did we just read that really, it wasn't great for Yin Shin, but Yin Shin was content because of her fish. What happened that made her really not content and made her sad and made her cry?
She lost the slipper.
One,
That she
raise your hand.
promised.
I love it. I love the that. So everything is basically the fish died. So it's basically stepmom kills the fish. And what was the other thing she was sad she couldn't do?
She couldn't do.
Yes.
Keep her promise.
No. You have it.
She couldn't go to the spring.
Yes, to the festival. Good job. Yes, that's the other one. So stepmom kills fish, and the other one she can't go to the festival. FESTIVAL.
I gave her.
So, is there you have 3 so far or 2 so far?
For the, well, 2. You have 2.
I had 3.
What did you get?
I have little ones fried, her fish done, and sugar.
I love that. You guys perfect. You guys are better than me. I love that. Love it.
I gave the stepmom a new name.
What's that?
Kitty Rich.
There you go. I'm with it. So when we're at the, I'm with it. That's what I'm saying. Then we're at the climax. So you guys know what the climax is. We're at like the peak of the story. What did she do to like? We obviously know we talked about she couldn't go to the festival. What made her able to go to the festival? Raise your hand. Yes.
Those fish bones. The magical fish bones.
Yes. She was talking to fish bones, but what did the fish bones do? So that's one of the part of the answer. Yes, is talking to the fish bones. And what did it go to? Like, what did she get from talking to the fish bones?
A dress.
She got a dress and she got
Shoes.
golden slippers. That's key. So for the climax is then Shay talks to the fish bones, and then go with dash, dress plus gold slippers. Yes, you're on that one, right there.
Oh,
The Then climax.
No.
You're good. Fit it in. If you already wrote on it, just fit it in. You're good. Okay. And then what's the other climax of the story? We already know the fairy tale is. What happened when she was running out of the festival when she was running out of her stepmom?
She lost her golden slipper.
Well, raising your hand. Yes, golden slipper. So that's the other one. That's 2 answers right there.
Ow!
So you guys see, we're almost done here. We're getting there. The Latin, then we need the reason, and we're gonna do it in the story, and that's it, obviously. Okay. So last, reason and scene. We're not there yet. So obviously, we will. That's like the ending. So we're gonna read down the story. And we're gonna see what happens. Okay. So let's think about what we're reading here now. You're gonna need the last. So what is gonna be like? What's the last major thing that happened in this story that you think? And then we're gonna find out the resolution and ending. Let's do guesses. What do you think's gonna happen?
Like he gives her an idol with her slipper.
I'll get you in a second. What did you say again? Say it again.
She gets her slipper back and
I'm taking guesses before we're gonna read it together. I want to take. What do you guys guess? What do you guys think?
oh, she married the king.
You think? So you think she's gonna meet the king?
I know.
Okay.
I know that's gonna
What do you think? She thinks she's gonna marry the king. So we got 2 to marry the king. So all right, we're gonna read here. We're gonna get done here. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. Okay.
When does it not happen? When does the princess?
Let's do it. We're almost done here. It wasn't until the blackest part of night, while the moon hid behind the cloud, that Yin Shin dared to show her face at the pavilion. And even then, she tiptoed timidly across the wide field, sinking down to her knees. The girl in rags examined the tiny shoe only when she was sure that this was the missing mate to her own golden slipper. Did she dare to pick it up? At last, she could return both little shoes to the fishbone. Surely then her beloved spirit would speak to her again. Now the king's first thought on seeing Yin Shin take the precious slipper was to throw the girl into the prison as a thief. But when she turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of her face. At once, the king was struck by the sweet harmony of her features, which seemed so out of keeping with the rags she wore. It was then he took a closer look and noticed that she walked upon the tiniest feet he had ever seen. With a wave of his hand, the king signaled that his tattled creature was to be allowed to depart with the golden slipper. Quietly, the king's men slipped off and followed her home. At all this time, Yin Shin was unaware of the excitement she had caused. She had made her way home and was about to hide both in her bedding when then she was pounding at the door. Yin Shin went to see who it was and found the king at her doorstep. She was very frightened at first, but the king spoke to her in a very kind voice and asked her to try the golden slippers on her feet. The maiden obviously, as she did what she was told, and as she stood in her golden shoes, her rags were transformed once more into the feathered cloak and beautiful azure gown. Her loveliness made her seem a heavenly being, and the king suddenly knew in his heart he had found his true love. Not long after this, Yin Shin was married to the king, but fate was not so gentle with her stepmother and stepsister. Since they had been unkind to his beloved, the king would not permit Yin Shin to bring them to his palace. They remained in their cave home, where one day, it is said, they were crushed to death in a shower of flying stones.
Well, dang.
It's a pretty way to end the story. It's pretty wild.
She died.
See, that was a bad story.